Eric, what's going on, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
Man, I am good. I am good. I like your background there. Is that there you go. That's the logo, baby. I
That is
like
the
it.
logo.
So where you at? Where you at right now? You said you're from New York. We talked about that in the past, but like
Yeah.
where are you located right now?
Well, I live in Rhode Island. I've been in Rhode Island for probably the last 20 something years, 22 years.
Okay.
I grew up in New York, just up the Hudson River, a little bit outside of New York City, town called Poughkeepsie. And then I went to URI and fell in love with the area, beaches, boats. That's just
Oh,
my speed. So I stayed up here after college and, been here ever since. So yeah.
you had to wear the Red Sox jersey in honor of you
Well,
being from New York. And so
yeah, I know.
um
I
yeah, it's
appreciate
been
that.
it's been tough sledding for both our teams for a little bit now. So
We had a good run until you guys knocked us out of the water.
I
I think
hear
you
you.
2004 was a breaking point for us. That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, right now y'all have so much talent on your team, and I'm just like, why? I'm watching, like why in the world are the Yankees in the World Series the last couple of years?
I know we do, but I'm getting as I get older, I just check in with my son and say, where are we at? It's too
Yeah,
much. I'm not young anymore. I can keep up with 157 games, wherever it is. So,
no, it's tough. I can't either.
fun.
But when you have Aaron Judge on your team, I'm really shocked that.
Yeah, could be
Anyway,
worse. Could be worse.
anyhow, yep. So anyhow, we could sit here and do that all day, but it's not the Baseball Town podcast. We're on Insurance Town podcast. So I do want to get into who is Eric, where you come from. Tell me, first of all, pronounce your last name for the audience because I'm gonna have it
Mayhem.
in the show notes. Maybaum.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds super simple, but I read it, I'm like, I always want to church it up and make it different, but it's not. So tell me who Eric Maybaum is. Take me a walk down memory lane. Lead me up to how you got into insurance, where you're at today, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So, professionally, my first real job out of college was working for a federal savings bank doing pretty much refis, some purchase, but refis, subprime refis before subprime became a bad word to say after, 2008. So when I graduated college, I was one of the top loan officers there for a while. And what happened was one of the VPs of the bank had met my current partner at Anthem, Adam DeGrade, and he had just sold his company. It was called BZ Results to ADP, the payroll company, and wanted to apply what he knew about digital marketing to another vertical. Him and Tim became friendly, and they started chatting and said, we knew a lot about mortgages, and you know a lot about marketing. What if we just combined the two and built a marketing consulting training company, which we did. Started that company that was called Astonish in 2006. And then we were doing great until the mortgage market imploded in 2008. And then it really wasn't, it didn't matter how good we were generating leads for these mortgage brokers and helping them run their business because Wall Street wasn't taking any of the loans. So most of them went out of business. And at that time, I can't remember how we got into it, but I think one of our clients worked for an insurance company up in Boston and said, you guys do some really good stuff. Have you ever thought about the insurance space? And this was, I think, in 2008. So we took a look at it and it was just wide open. I mean, we had some agencies still doing $5,000 a month in Yellow Page ads, doing referrals, and they didn't know what else to do. And when we came in and just, retooled everything for it, and it just took off. So we learned about insurance. We had to and understand the business, but we probably had that for, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 years, 7 years before we sold the company. We had maybe 600 independent agents using our platform. So that's really how we got into it. And then we came back with Anthem initially to do this for similar system and philosophy for CPAs and lawyers. And what we found was that the insurance industry still needed help. I had old clients from Astonish saying, "Hey, you guys are doing this again. We really need, help." I
Yeah.
thought they would have been light years ahead of where we left them, but unfortunately they weren't. So we built a business around it again, and we're planting the flag or replanting the flag with the same faces but different name under Anthem. So it's been great. It's been well received. We have a lot of older clients that have come back to us and now have repeat clients, and there are some new faces. So we're just getting back into the swing of things with the associations like PIA, and we were all over Rough Notes Insurance Journal back in the day, and we're trying to again, same faces, different names. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I've only done mortgages or this, my entire life.
Yeah. So it was Anthem born out of COVID, or was it before COVID?
Technically, I think it was December 2020.
Okay,
We
so
incorporated it.
there you go. Because I think that in my mind, I keep using that. I'm a big Marvel guy, so it's kind of like the blip for me. I don't know if you're a Marvel guy at all, but it's kind of like you can look pre-COVID and post, especially in our industry, and I see like a major shift, from the way things were to the way things are now, and I think we've come. I agree with you that it doesn't surprise me that your old clients didn't, you know, come a lot further along as you thought they would have until now. Now with COVID, you tell me, you're the guy that's in it every day. I feel like since 2020, they've had to fast forward, and our industry has fast forwarded, and we've seen even conferences like ITC, really blow up, Intertech Connect, and you've seen all these like tech conferences blow up, and I'm going to one next week called Indie Tech, or this week, sorry. I've seen, a lot of things like that. And so I would ask you, I guess, would you say kind of the same thing? That's kind of your marker of, February of 2020 to see, we've kind of fast forward a little bit as an industry and caught up a little bit with the fintechs?
Well, I think it changed a couple different things with COVID. I mean, obviously everybody went remote.
Yeah.
Everybody was able to figure out that you might not really need an office with 120 people, and the way technology is moving forward. I could do 3 times the amount of output, results wise for our agencies with a third of the staff, right? So I don't need office space. I don't need all that overhead, because at the end of the day, you're also only limiting yourself about who's in your backyard as far as your talent, right? So we're all remote, we're all distributed, which makes it easier for us to be flexible, and hire the right people, the better people, because of that lack of restriction on geography. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's flooding the market, and you go to these conferences and go to these insurtechs and a lot of bells and whistles. I'm not sure how much of that gets applied inside the agency, to be honest with you, because I think I would see it more, and there are still a lot of agencies, and you maybe, probably can attest to this, that are still staying away from it, for whatever reasons. But there is a lot out there, way more than there was 15 years ago, and it's a lot better. But I don't see a lot of agencies really putting those pieces into place, for a couple of different reasons that we could, talk
Yeah,
about.
no, I think you're right on that. I do think, studies have shown, that I think the study came out a couple of years ago that the average agency had, outside of Microsoft and Google or whatnot, had true insurtech, had like 6 pieces of tech in their agency. And then they redid the study, I think this year, and it was like up to 8 pieces of tech now. And so they've added a couple more pieces, outside of just AMS and your CRM. And I think they've also added in some other things, which is, again, I think is still some progress that we're seeing.
Mm.
But yeah, you're right. And I think some of it has to do with geography. Like in Arkansas where I'm at, I can promise you there's not that much tech in their agencies. There's still agencies I talked to at PIA conference I saw you at. One of the guys who was with us was talking about, he still has file cabinets.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, you got to just get rid of those file cabinets. You got to start, and he was talking about how he's bringing in interns in the summer. He's got, summer's ending now, but he had interns coming in that were scanning all their documents and trying to go paperless. I'm like, dude, paperless was so like 2000. I don't know why you're not,
Yeah.
fully paperless now. But again, I think it's geography wise. Maybe up in New York and, the northeast corner of the country, maybe they are more tech focused. But I think in the South and maybe in the Midwest, you see a lot of agencies still have file cabinets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we spent some time together last week, obviously the PIA Tech Council meeting. And if you look at it, there's, a bunch of vendors in there that I think are on the cutting edge with a lot of these pieces. You have a lot of the
Yep.
better agents, that are putting some of these pieces in place together, trying to figure out how to help the masses of agents that actually don't do any of that. Right. So where's the disconnect? In the agency? I, have my opinions on it, but just for agencies that I speak to on a daily basis, which I think I'm part of it is right. But you never know until you ask. But I feel this is obviously an older, aging industry, right? The average
100%.
agency owner, you probably know, right? So what is the incentive sometimes to change when your, succession plan is right around the corner? And in my opinion, sometimes it's a great business. First of all, it's residual income. Get a customer, love them, keep them, rinse and repeat, and you just make a lot of money. Which also sometimes instills maybe a little bit of lack of motivation to do anything different
Or
because you make a lot
complacency.
of money.
Yeah.
If you're down 0.5% next year, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter.
No,
You
I
know?
hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying 100%. I don't think you're wrong in that for a lot of agencies out there. And I think you're right. We've had this adage of pale, male, and stale for years in our industry. But I do see, at these conferences I go to, and I see a lot younger people coming in. And I do think there's some perpetuation coming in that. But even at that, even my kids, and their friends, they're not as tech driven as I thought they would have been.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing some of them, yeah, they have enough, but I don't know, enough to be dangerous, I should say. But yeah, I think, and I'll ask you this, do you think it comes from a place of fear, or as you mentioned, a place of complacency, or do you think that they're not adopting some of this tech because they're waiting on proof of concept?
Well, I don't,
Or
I'm
D, none
not
of
sure
the
if they're,
above?
sorry.
I said, or D, none of the above.
Well, I don't think I mean, maybe it is proof of concept in some, if they drill down to a certain vendor to say, all right, show me how you've done this before, give me the results. But, if I've been at this since 2006, in the last 18 years, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think there is a fear to go into the unknown, right? You've built a business on pretty much predominantly referrals, which is great. A lot of the businesses have been handed down, from the first generation, second, third, whatever it might be. So that machine's was already in place. Like it's already printing money, right? You just gotta take it, not screw it up, make it better, keep it going, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that there is some fear in the unknown of I don't know how to do this. I think there's a lot of fear in how are my people going to adopt these things? Will they even do it if I ask them to? And what happens if I bring something else in that I know might improve my agency? How will my people react to it? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of moving parts to the agency saying, why would I change something that's working, but how can I grow if I don't?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's still a business that's, based around relationships and sales. And you come from a marketing background. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's still sales, and it's still, reaching out to these people, closing the deal, and then, treating them right from there. So talk to me about, from your standpoint, where does the two arms of marketing and sales and customer service, I guess those that three-legged stool, where does that come together, and like where do you feel like we're missing the boat on that?
I think that it's broken into two pieces. What can you do? Technology assisted sales, let's call it that. What can you do prior to you having to pick up the phone and say, hey, Heath, Erica, Anthem Insurance, how can I help you? Right? What can you automate prior to that to bring in more of those phone calls, more of those form submissions? What do you need to do to drive the traffic? Right? Because there's only so much you can automate. You still need that human touch in the middle. So I think you need to automate as much as you possibly can before that you pick up that phone and as soon as you hang it up. Where the agents and CSRs might do but not have time to do as the book grows, things fall by the wayside. So I think that's where technology really serves the agency, because nothing's going to eliminate that human touch, or else Progressive and Geico, we've already figured out how to knock out all the agents.
Yeah.
Right. So what I think the agency, where there might be falling down in some cases, is they're not trying to really put a lot of thought into, or the practices of, all right, what do I need to do prior to that phone call, and what do I need to do when I hang up that phone? Because there's still sales that need to be involved. No one's going to go in and fill out a whole form on my website. They don't know who I am, right? And is that the way that really they're going to bind insurance? They're not. You're going to get less people to fill out a longer form versus more people to say, here's my first name, last name, email, phone number. You still have to sell the insurance. You have to build the value of your agency, yourself. But to answer your question, how much can we just automate before that phone call? And what do we need to do after that, right? That we automate, and then reduce that sale to a linear function. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Right on. You brought up earlier, the Yellow Pages ads and whatnot, and kind of brought back a little PTSD for me as I got in the industry in early 2000s, like literally 2000, 2001, before Google was really a thing, before Facebook, before smartphones, and all I had was cold calls, door knocking, and Yellow Page ads,
Mhm.
and it worked. I mean, we did just fine, but there's been a huge change over the last 25 years since, or 24 years since then. And you sounds like you've been a part of that journey with so many people, whether it's in our industry or outside of our industry. Talk to me a little bit. Like, I see on your website, you mentioned SEO marketing, and you mentioned, some of that search engine optimization. You mentioned a lot of those kind of things on your website. There for a while, that was all the talk: SEO, 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 and keywords and AdWords, all this kind of stuff. And then it kind of went away for a little bit. I guess people were focused more on social. Now I'm seeing a resurgence of that, and maybe I'm wrong in that, but am I seeing that properly? Like, am I on the right track there? That is starting to come back a little bit. And what kind of advice can you give and talk to about when it comes to the SEO now as opposed to SEO years back?
Well, I mean, if you're trying to get on Google, right, it's a living, breathing thing. They constantly move the ball on how content gets ranked, right? So, for example, 6 months ago, a 1,500 word blog would be something in the sweet spot of enough content, keyword rich. Got to make sure you can't just write something and say, I sell car insurance. Car insurance is awesome. Throw it out there, and then all of a sudden Google's going to see it, give you credit for it, pull your site up to the first page. It's not going to happen. You need to continue to be raising your hand where they have to notice you, right? So longer form, more authentic content is actually better. So blogs need to be longer than 1,500 words, we find, or I find. They will constantly move the algorithms around how they rank things, but it's not just content. There's also things like backlinking, where you're placing your site on other third-party websites that have high domain authority and good ranking, and people can see traffic. Google will pick up the traffic going from one site to the other, and that helps. There's ways that you can leverage social media called social bookmarking, where the content could be picked up, where that wasn't really around, when Facebook came around, right? So that's another, bullet in the gun for you. But, I think initially everyone got excited about it, wanted to do it. And I think a lot of agents they couldn't get it to work for whatever reason, whether it be lack of knowledge, lack of execution. They try to do it themselves and they shouldn't have, because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're agents, right? So do they hire someone internally to do it? How much would you pay that person to do it? Is it a lot of money just to have someone on staff? Of course. Or if you don't go with the right vendor and you get burned, then you get turned off, right? So the trick to the search engines is to understand that it's never going to stop evolving. You need to be on top of whatever is going to be the next way that Google recognizes you, so you can push everybody else out of the way. When you talk about SEO and search engine marketing, internally for me, those are two different terms. That search engine marketing is like paid search, where you're paying to be on the top, right? The SEO is the organic, where Google says you're important. Here you go. You're the first person organically, right? If you do a local search on your town rate car insurance, right? Just type car insurance, Fayetteville, Arkansas, wherever you are. You're going to see Progressive, Geico, and the Hartford and the bigger dogs pop up. Why would they do that? Why do they care to pay to be in your small little town, or every town in the country, in every state? Because they know the local agent isn't doing that.
Exactly.
So
I would say that, yeah.
Right. So the agents that say, oh, I can't do it, it's too competitive, it's too saturated, just do a search and see. You tell me how many independent agents you see on the first or second page. Right. It's still wide open in that respect, because most agents will pull away from it. And that's why Geico and Progressive are there, because if they can pick off some of the people that are searching and can't find a local independent option, well, maybe they can get some of that. So I think, and what we encourage our clients to do, is do both. Do search engine marketing on top of organic, because let's say you had a small budget that you paid to Google to just have your link there. If nobody clicks on it, they still saw you. They still saw the Shearon Insurance Agency and decide not to do it. Maybe they come back in a month and you're there again. And then what if you're there organically too? Now you're in two spots. Now you're just building more credibility. So when I, explain this to an agent, I say, would you let me put your billboard of your agency, your contact info on the highway, and I won't charge you until someone calls you, they're going to say yes, because they know all those other people that drove by the sign saw it. So why wouldn't you do that online? Right. So something to think about.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of insurance agents, at least the ones I've talked to over the years and worked with, even in my carrier days, they were really had their minds kind of wrapped around. I think they still to this day of awareness campaigns or like doing marketing to get their name out there, but they fumble when it comes to anything beyond that. Would you agree?
I, yes, because it's just,
I
there's
think
a
there's a
reason.
big difference in just awareness campaigns of like, hey, we're out here, but then what are you going to do? I think you got to. I think agencies need to develop marketing campaigns to go beyond just, hey, we're here.
Yeah. Well, it's what are you better served doing? Running your agency, writing insurance, closing policies, or trying to figure out how to be an SEO marketer, and then an email marketer, and then a social media marketer. Like, it just, you can't, right? So you're not going to hire somebody W-2 and pay that person 125 grand a year, right? If you're on the smaller agency side. So then how do you get other vendors to come in and do all that? And I think it gets
Yeah.
overwhelming, because then there's just too much. There's too much input. They just shut down and don't do anything, to be honest with you.
Right. So, where do you feel like they should be spending their time? If there is no time on this, I mean, obviously they need to be closing deals and spending time on that stool that we talked about, three-legged stool we talked about. But when it comes to the marketing piece of it, which is where I feel like your expertise is, where should they be spending their time?
Content, the right content, definitely putting content out. I mean, blogging, it doesn't sound sexy, but it works if you do it the right way. And most agencies that I speak to, they say, yeah, I already have a blog on my site. I look at the site there. It's a 300-word blog. It's not SEO effective. Sometimes the site's not even ranking. The thought is just write words and throw them out there. It just doesn't work. There's a science to doing it the right way. How many times do you say car insurance, Fayetteville, Arkansas in that blog? That also matters, right? How many times are you repeating the same, keywords? It all goes into it. And then your frequency, how often you're putting them out. And where are you putting them? Are you putting them just in your website? Are you putting them on third-party websites? Or, there's a lot that goes into separating yourself, from these other agencies. The agency has to understand you can only start from where you are. So whether you do it yourself or you outsource it, we can only bring you from the state we find you in going forward, and yourself going forward. But I just think it's so overwhelming that they just stay away from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they just rely on just prospecting, old school prospecting, which again is great. But I think again, I'm a firm believer in that. Going back to that three-legged stool we talked about, and having the marketing and the sales together. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I feel like you're doing so much. I want to get into that here in a few minutes, but I did want to dive into one quick topic before we get into a little bit more about Anthem itself. Obviously Google blew up, became a big thing. And I would say, 04, 05, 06, for a long time, it still is. I think, and YouTube and the whole thing, but now we're seeing a whole new thing with AI, and we're seeing a lot with generative AI. And now even Google has their own, with Gemini. But, and I think going back to your point earlier with longer form blogs and with better content, where does AI fit in that, and where's the cheat sheet, so to speak, that insurance agents could do with AI or Gen AI?
So we had this conversation at the PIA,
Yeah,
right? And I think
I was very
AI.
active in that conversation. So
Sorry.
I said I was a little active in that conversation, but yeah, so I enjoyed that. Yeah, go ahead.
So to me, like, just stepping back and absorbing all these conversations, what the agents say, like, I feel like a lot of agents and people, not just agents, but in our world, that AI is this like thing where you can type in like, how do I make more money and run my agency more efficiently? And they'll just give you this blueprint of here's exactly what to do today. And you go, oh, awesome, let's just do that. Right. I think that's what the mindset is, because all of a sudden AI is just going to help everything. Just, you don't need lawyers. You just type in AI and you can be your own lawyer. Right. I think we're very far from that. But what I think the vendors in my world, what is my responsibility is to give a better product to my client, and how do I leverage AI to do that? So indirectly, my clients are using AI because I use AI, which manually writing a blog, you don't need to do that. You can use AI to do that. And then there's software that actually can scan the blog and say, this is what Google prefers to see. This is how many times you should say car insurance, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Then it can crawl your site to make sure that your keywords are constantly ranking and rearranging your keywords on your website. So the AI can speed up the process of the thing that is the right process to do. So I think, with all these other vendors that we spoke to and management systems and, all these, I just think it's their responsibility to use AI to make their product better. That's all we do internally. But there isn't this magic thing where I think a lot of agencies are confused, thinking like, when you ask an agency to use AI, what does that mean? In what context? Where? What part of my system? What part of my agency? I just think they think it's just this magic thing, which it's great, but
Yeah. And there's so much more that I'm learning, as I've dove into this in my own personal life and at my professional career of, with AI and what it is. Because again, at 44 years old, I'm not the oldest guy, but I'm not the youngest guy anymore. And so I'm trying to embrace, because it's not going anywhere. It's only going to evolve and get more and more in our industry. And so, but at first I was like what you were just talking about, I just thought, oh, this would be a great resource for me to write more content, whatever it might be. But beyond that, I mean, I'm seeing so many, use cases within management systems, within CRMs to analyze data, to be able to put together stuff. It's no longer just about, I have a cool feature within like this show. When this is done, the transcript will go into a tool that I use, and then AI will write a whole show notes and tag you, and it'll put your email address and it'll do all the things. I don't have to write anymore the show notes, and it's a beautiful thing for me. But it goes beyond that now, and even I use HubSpot is CRM for Insurance Town, and it could go in and analyze, who opens my emails, what's doing this, how often they open, how long they read it, and then they can help me get some information from that and tell me what those people want to see more of. Or I don't know, there's so many more things within the AI, within your tech, the AI can do for you beyond just writing content. But
yeah.
to the point of writing, using it for content though, and analyzing data, I know that's one of the other things that you guys do at Anthem is, I saw something on there and I wanted to see what you meant by that. Well, there's a tab in there about tracking, tracking the data and tracking the information and whatnot. And I'm assuming that's due with the sales, so with the CRM tool and whatnot. But you tell me, is there something that you could talk to about that? And then maybe even, how agencies can use the data they have and track some of that kind of stuff and what you're doing there.
Yeah. So a couple of things. So yes, you could track sales, right? And prior to this, before AI and everything else, I mean, you want to give the best leads to the best closers, right?
Yeah.
So they should be tracking that internally. Do we have software that can do that? Absolutely. But more importantly, tracking the results of marketing. So where are people coming from? You can track, is it coming from an email? Is it coming from organic social? Is it coming from paid search? Is it coming from, social media? Is it coming from a blog? There's ways to track all of that. So an agency can look to see where, all right, here's where I get most of my action from, right? So let's do more of that. Or why isn't email marketing working as well as everything else? Well, maybe because you don't have a lot of emails, or maybe the quality's bad, or maybe the messaging is bad, but you can see it, let's say it's an air traffic control tower, all those different things that are coming into the agency on the marketing side. So we definitely, look at that. And then also from an SEO standpoint, you can start to see where if you're deploying certain, types of AI into your blogging strategies, your content strategies, you can start to see like if there's any hockey stick growth, or you can start to look back and go, this is the point where we started that, and here's what happened, or here's what happened, and know that it's working or it's not, and then be able to react to it, quickly. But to your, point earlier, you're doing exactly what I just said. I use AI to make my thing better, right? You're using AI so you can pump out more podcasts. If that thing's writing notes for you, how many more podcasts could you do versus you doing it manually, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So to that point, technology assisted sales, it's you still need to do the podcasts. But all the
Yeah.
stuff that, all the busy stuff before that and all the busy stuff after, that's just a waste of Heath's time, is where I believe AI comes in now to help our, respective products. So there's a lot the agency can do to track it, from a sales standpoint and a marketing standpoint, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. And I have these, doing these podcasts and talking to people and being a part of tech councils and getting to talk at different events and whatnot. I have this, thought in my, and I truly believe this will happen someday. I'm one of these people that, and I've talked about it on the show a lot, but I've got an Alexa in every room in my house, and I just envision a day where, and this is just my squirrel brain, but where someone could wake up and be like, "Hey Alexa, get me a quote on car insurance,"
Mm.
and it will spit out, let's say like 3 or 4 quotes to you, just verbally, so to speak, and then you could say, "Okay, I like the one that Anthem Insurance. I like that quote. Get me directions to whatever." And then, it can connect to your phone, have the directions right there, and get you right there if you wanted to. Or, even, bind this policy, whatever it might be. I just feel like there's this world coming where AI is going to be able to do that with the technology we already have in our homes and connect it with your cell phone, connect it with your car, even for that matter. Hell, it could in the future could even connect to where your Tesla and drive you there itself. I don't know. I just feel like there's this world out there that's coming, and so I think agencies that do, going back to what we talked about earlier, have that fear, so to speak, or have that mindset of I don't need to embrace this because it's not going to be here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think we have to evolve. And even the agencies that, if you wanted to, I guess you could probably answer this for me, start somewhere. I mean, most agencies, I would say, probably to this day have a agency management system, but I wouldn't say all of them have a CRM. My thoughts are at least start with adding a CRM to your agency management system and start from there if they don't have that. And I think most agencies have a Facebook page and do social media, but maybe not well, and that's a whole other topic. But
Yeah.
at least start there. Where would you tell agencies, to embrace and start? And then we'll get into Anthem.
Well, I think it's, what are you trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
right? Like, to kind of jump back a little bit, like I think the two biggest pieces were, from my point of view, that AI should really be focused on for the agency is underwriting, and then number two is service, right? And both of those things have some compliance to that, right? We spoke about that at PA, which if they can crack the code on that, I think it would be great. Getting the yes or no from the carrier faster. And number two is automating a lot of the things that CSRs, you're paying CSRs to do, because every agency that might add $1 million in premium or whatever that number is, you got to layer on another person, right, to handle the service. Like, so can AI, knock that one out, because then less payroll, more revenue, higher output. Are we paying people to do things that we just don't need to do anymore? So I think those are the two biggest pieces. Aside from the marketing and everything else, those are the major big rocks. I think that if there's companies out there that put some time into it, that could help a smaller independent agency, because they don't have to have all that big payroll, and they don't have to rely on people as much, or they get more out of their people. If you're not letting people go, it's, if your CSR didn't need to spend 4 hours a day on doing this, what else would you have them do? Right? What other revenue producing activities should they be working on, or your agents, for that matter? So that's where I think AI can come in and help. But, it's, the agent has to wait for someone like me or other companies to go, hey, look at this thing that I just built. It'll help you do this, right? They're just waiting for us to come figure this out, which that's, I think, where we're at in the stage of this.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I think you're on to that. Talk to me a little bit about Anthem. Tell me, you and I obviously had many conversations. I see you at all the conferences I go to, but tell me, start high level. Give me kind of the mission of Anthem software. What is Anthem? What's your goals with this? Where do you see yourself plugging into the insurance industry? Kind of give me some of that.
So if you were to walk in, we don't have an office anymore, right? But if you were to walk into the office or our locker room, what would be the sign that's above the door when you walk in, right? Really what our mission to do is take an agency that's 15, 20 million in premium or less and try to double them in size in 5 years. That's really what we want to try to do. the way that I do that is through all the different pieces of technology. So I'm probably 10 different vendors wrapped into one system where I'm coming in and doing your site. I'm doing your SEO. I'm doing your blogging strategy, creating content, distributing content for your social media. I'm helping you do all your email marketing, helping to round out, retain your customers better, and then wrapping that all up with software, the CRM that manages the whole thing, drives all the automations, tracks everything. So now the agency isn't dealing with, 5, 6 different companies. They're overwhelmed. It's just us doing all the basic blocking and tackling that, they should be doing. I mean, AI is great, but email marketing is 30 years old, or maybe more, and you're still not doing that right. So there's a lot of foundational pieces that the agency still needs to do that we can, certainly cover. But when I say what you're looking to accomplish, from my point of view, there's two different goals. There's short-term satisfaction. So what can we do right now in the next couple of years to make the agency more money, right? Part two is, what are you going to do with the agency down the road? What is your exit strategy? Are you giving it to, your children? Are you passing it down to family members, or are you trying to sell it, right? And if you're trying to sell it, would you be more attractive to a buyer if you had these pieces McDonaldized in place? So everything being equal, if Sheeran Insurance is $5 million in premium, Maybaum Insurance is $5 million in premium, we're both in Arkansas, same mix of clients. If everything on your side is all paper, file cabinets, nothing's in order, you are the business. If you don't come in, it shuts down. And then you have another Maybaum Insurance that has a McDonaldized approach to do all these things. It's running efficiently, nothing's on paper. If you're going to buy an agency and grow by acquisition, which one would you want to buy? So in our experience with our other company, our agencies were coming back to us after they sold, realizing that I got to hire multiple because I was able to prove these things. I was able to show them, this is how I find new customers. This is how I retain, round out. This is how I. So yes, short term, let's make more money now, but long term, whether you're selling it, hire multiple, or if you're passing it down to children, you're just giving them the problem you didn't want to deal with anyway right now, and they're going to have to deal with it in 5 or 10 years. So that's really our mission, is to try to help the agency grow, and how we do it are the bells and whistles. It's the engine. It's going to change. Like I said in the beginning, 1,500 word blogs, now they're 2,500, 3,000 words. Then there's AI. Then there's, you can do this with social media. Like, the system might not look the same in a couple of years, and that's okay. But the mission of how to do it, is what we kind of stick to.
So can someone work with Eric or Anthem without having your CRM, or is the CRM kind of, what gets them in the door to working with you?
Well, everything I do, I'd say 95, to answer your question, it's a la carte if it needs to be, right? So I'd say 95% of my agencies do all of it with me because they understand it's important and they don't want to deal with company A, B, C, D to sort of piece this whole thing together. But then I have, 5% of my clients say, hey, just build me a website, or I need a blog. Do my blog.
Right, but if agency owner comes to you and says, well, I've already got Agency Zoom, or I've got HubSpot, or I've got Salesforce, or I've got some other agency, whatever it might be, some other agency management system, or some other CRM, so to speak, could Eric still work with that management system, give them the techniques and the strategies that you still want to use? Or is it one of those things they need to get into the CRM?
No, 100%. They don't need to use my CRM, so if they have something on the back end and they say, I just need a better web presence, I need you to help me drive in more traffic, automate my social media so I don't have to deal with that every day. So it's more of a front end push.
Yeah.
Try to get people that are online, and you guys have your own CRM. Don't have a dog in that fight. As long as it's working,
yeah,
doesn't matter to me. So yeah, they can piece it together based on, what they're looking to accomplish, for sure.
Yeah, when you look at, who you serve and what you're doing to help agencies on your website, there's a lot of, services that you guys offer, and there's a lot of things you guys do. Look amazing. Again, going back to search engine optimization, you talk about different things on there that you and I have already gotten into a little bit of. One of the other things we did not get into, and I may have to have you come back in, but I'd love to hear what you guys are doing in the last few minutes with, and I guess it's all tied together maybe, with helping agencies build their brand. Is that kind of all wrapped into what Anthem does with the SEO, with the marketing, with the social media, with the tracking results? Is that all kind of baked in together under branding, or is it a whole separate category?
Well, I think the branding is more on the front end. The CRM, the CRM does help with branding if you're, touching your database, whether it be, uh, you know, someone that you just wrote. You got to love them and serve them. Maybe a holiday, birthday, whatever it might be. Then you have people that might have auto no home. What are we doing to stay in front of them? Because the better agencies are doing these things to your customers, whether you think so or not, right? So they're trying to pick you off because you're not protecting them, right? How are
Yeah.
you automating some of the pieces of retention to maybe get up your retention rate, make sure that people aren't shopping you. So all those pieces on the back end, those touches help to build the brand. On the front end, more importantly, getting someone that doesn't know who you are, it's going to come down to how your website's built. Not just having any old website's gonna move the needle with people that aren't referrals because they don't know who you are. So if your website's not tight, if your social presence is not in order, right, they're going to assume that this is the experience they're going to have if they actually walked into your agency, because they're like, you don't take care of your own digital business, right? Your virtual storefront. How are you going to take care of me? Referrals don't care if you have a website. They don't care what it looks like. They've been told to trust you and love you. So when you talk about branding of getting someone to go off of Google, like how much work is put into just getting someone to the website, right? With all the blogging and the content, and then to not have that tight and right to lose them, it's just a waste of time. So we have a lot of agencies that we track their traffic before we get involved. Like I'll do a look back a couple months and say, here's where you're at. And they didn't realize they had 400 people hitting the website every month. Like, where are these people coming from? Right. But why, more importantly, why aren't they converting into a phone call or quote request form?
100%. I love that. Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point. Again, I may have to have you come back on again because there's so many things that we could still dive into, but I didn't want to, take up too much of your time. But I think a lot of agencies don't realize how important that is to have that, as you say, right and tight on the digital side. On your website, on your forward-facing thing. Like if you don't have that update, if you don't post on a regular basis, if you don't have certain things out there, I think you hit it right on the head. People are not going to trust you. Your prospects aren't going to necessarily trust you to be like, wait. And you may have the greatest agency on the planet inside your office, but if your digital presence is not right and tight, I like how you say that. Where are you at? I mean, there are people like, if this guy can't even get his digital right, why am I going to walk into his office, or why am I going to do business with them?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
just
mean,
so
even in
so key.
the issue is too is there's too many places to get insurance for you to not have the right web presence. So people are just going to bounce and go somewhere else.
Well, I think on the flip side of that, there is a ton. My voice got high. I got excited there. But I do think that there's a lot of agencies on the flip side of that have a really, really, really solid digital presence, so to speak, and they don't have anything in order in their home, or in their actual agency, but they're getting the business because they're attracting those clients that like the digital presence.
Appear bigger than you are.
100%.
Right.
Oh man, Eric. We're on, again, I don't want to open up a whole nother topic here, but I love that. So tell me, as we wrap up about Anthem, like contact info, anything we left out, anything that you want to get into the last 2 or 3 minutes before we sign off here. Where can they find you? What's some other things if they, wanted to get a demo or wanted to book an appointment, any of those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, anyone could call me personally, obviously, but anthemsoftware.com. You can go to our website. You can check out. There's a couple 60-second tours, videos. You can kind of understand the breadth of what we do. You can contact us through that. Follow us on social, obviously, but yeah, anthemsoftware.com. It's easy to get a hold of us. We don't make it hard.
Yeah. And I see some pretty big, partnerships, whether it's Big I or PIA or, some of these other things on your website. And so, it's cool to see. So if you're a member of PIA, I'm sure you can, get in touch with your local chapter or nationally. And then I saw some other really cool partnerships. You got, thank you for being a part of the Tech Council, and I got to see you there. And I think I saw you at like 6, PIA conferences last year. So that was
Yeah.
really cool, or this year, I should say.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, guys, you got to reach out and find this guy. Look for him on LinkedIn. Find his website. Again, he's going to have a good web presence because obviously if he doesn't, then he's in trouble. But the last thing I would say is I would love for you to just end out or sign us out with like, maybe tell me, how are you keeping your finger on the pulse of all these things? Like you said, 1,500, at one point now it's got to be 2,500, like on your blog posts and what, how are you keeping your finger on the pulse on that kind of stuff?
Well, that would be a conversation that we could have with my CTO.
Okay.
This guy is just a ninja with all this
Oh,
stuff,
that's
and
awesome.
he just doesn't sleep. He figures out what software can be plugged in to help us do this, that, the other thing, and we just have a great team, man. Like we have ninjas in every department of what we do. We've worked together. This is, I think, collectively our third company together. So at the core of it, and what Anthem is, and how it works, they've been doing this for quite some time. We work well together. And no one likes sleeping over here, so it kind of helps.
That's awesome. So you got a great team.
Yeah,
So that means
very
they're going
good.
to have a great team when they bring on Anthem. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Bro, I really appreciate you. I'm sure I'll see you here over the next couple of months again at more conferences. Hopefully, I'll see you in Arkansas at our next conference. But, dude, again, I appreciate you greatly.
No, it was great being on here, and I'm glad we finally got to do this, man. We've been trying
Yeah,
for a little bit, so
we have been. We
just
have
next
been.
time, ditch that jersey if you don't mind.
I will. I'll have my Yankees. Actually, I won't. But yeah, I'll have something different on.